Yes, sir.
Okay. So in the last class, we have discussed about the approach to write the multiple class in a single file. Okay. So we will discuss those things first, and then we will move forward. So first of all, who can tell me the general template to write a single class in a single file? Raise your hand. Single class in a single file. Yes, Gyanaranjan.
Sir, first the class name. After that, the
First
data
we have to
member.
write
After that, the member
class,
functions.
then class name, correct?
Yes, sir.
Then
Then sir, the data member
okay,
name.
then data members, then
Then the member functions.
okay, then the member functions, then
After that, the main method.
okay, main method,
After that,
okay.
creating an object.
So just tell the approach to create the object.
Sir, class name. After that, the object name equal to new class name.
Class
Parenthesis.
name, object name equal to new, then class name, then parenthesis. So can you say new after that, whatever we written, what is that?
Sorry, parenthesis and the semicolon.
What is the meaning of this statement? What is this one? This one is the constructor. Okay. Then we can access the data members with the help of what? With the help of object, then dot operator, then the members. The members can be the data members and the members can be the member functions. Okay. So we have discussed another approach to use multiple class in a single file. Okay. So who can explain the general syntax to discuss to use multiple class in a single file? Raise your hand. What about others? Aditi Krishna?
Whatever message you sent, I get it to your UP advisor.
Can you explain?
So I'm a bit confused.
Okay. Yes, Nimesa, explain.
So first we will write the class 1,
Okay.
then the data members,
Okay. Data members.
then the member function.
Okay.
So then
Member
we will
functions.
then we will write the public class and we will create another class that is we will take it as class 2.
Okay. Public class, then class 2.
2. So then the object of the class 1.
Then the set statement.
Class name object is equal to
Class 1.
class
then
1
object equal to
new class
new class 1.
1.
Yes or no? We are creating the object of class 1. Okay.
Yes, sir. So then we will call the member function of the class 1.
So obj dot members.
Obj dot members.
So either we can call the data members or we can call the member functions. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the general format that we have discussed in the last class, that how we can use multiple class inside a single file. And very important, just remember that in case of multiple class in a single file, the file name must be equal to the class name, which consists of the main method. That means I can say in this example, the main method must be present in class 2. Okay, the main method must be present in class 2. So the file name I can say class2.java. Any doubt up to this? Aditi, tell.
So in the main method that we can only access the member function, no, of the previous class.
No. Till now, we know that we can access the data members, we can access the member functions. So what is the restrictions? After knowing access specifier, we'll discuss those things. Okay? All right. So any other doubt? Okay. So who can explain this example based on the second approach? Just raise your hand. We have discussed this thing in the last class. Who can explain this one? Raise your hand. Okay. What about others? All right. So, okay, Aditi, explain this one. Listen, all of you listen carefully. After her explanation, if you have any doubt, then you can ask me. Then randomly, I will ask someone to explain. Okay. If you have doubt, then you can ask in between. Yes, start.
So first, can you show the main method?
Yes.
Here, so we have created a new object for book B1. Then B1.setData. So it will go to the setData function, sorry, method.
Okay.
In setData method, there is a we have created a scanner object, and then we have inputted the book name, the book ISBN, author name, and book price.
Okay.
Then after entering the data, it again goes to the main method. Then it calls b1.display method. So in the display method, then we go to the display method and display the information, that is the book name, ISBN name, author name of the book, and the price.
Okay. So let me explain this again from the beginning. Okay. First of all, any doubt? Yes, you can ask.
No, sir.
Okay. So let me explain this from the beginning. Just try to understand, because this is the beginning of class and object. You must be strong in this. Concept must be clear. I'm defining a class called book. These are all called as data members of the class. Data members of class book. Then I have defined the member function setData of class book. This method is used to provide or to initialize the data members of the class through the keyboard. Then I have another method, that is display. This method is used to display the data members of the class book. Up to this, I hope that it is clear. So the class name is book, 4 data members, 2 member method. One method is setData. It is used to initialize the data members of the class through keyboard. Another method is display. This method is used to display the data members of the class book. Then I have defined another class, book details, where I have created one. All of you listen carefully what I am saying. I have created one object reference B1. Okay, and I am allocating the memory where B1 is pointing to the memory that is allocated. Just look at here what happened. In this case, I can say I have allocated a memory for B1 that is present in some location. Okay, using new operator, I have allocated some memory for in which memory is allocated for the data members, and B1 is referencing to that memory where the memory for the data members will be allocated. This concept is very, very important. All of you realize this one. So do not say that B1 is the object. B1 is the object reference. Why reference? Because it is referencing to memory locations where the memory for the data members will be allocated. So definitely I can say this memory is different, this memory is different. Okay. So now then I have called a method b1.setData. Whenever I will call this b1.setData, then I will initialize the data members of the class, and where they are going to be stored, they are going to be stored here. So first data member, let's say name, second data member, let's say registration number, third data member is, let's say, branch, fourth data member, let's say section or CGP, whatever data members we have written. So if we will look at the code, the first data members is what? Here in this case, we are defining the class book. So first data member is name, second one is ISBN, third one is author, fourth one is price. So memory is allocated here, and we are providing the values. Then whenever we are calling the display method, we are displaying the value of book name, ISBN number, author name, and the price. Any doubt of this? Isandeep, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. So now let us discuss. So we have discussed this example of book. So let us go further. We have also discussed in the last class about the difference between the class and object. This one is very important. Let us discuss again what is the difference between class and object. So a class is a logical description of an object, whereas an object is a physical realization of an existing class. A class is a data type, whereas objects are the variable of type class. A class generates object, whereas an object gives life to a class. Classes do not occupy memory location. Just like this, whenever we are writing class book, no memory is going to be allocated. But whenever we are writing this statement book b1 is equal to new book, memory is going to be allocated. Okay. So a class, classes do not occupy memory locations, but objects occupy memory locations. Classes cannot be manipulated due to not available in the memory location, but objects can be manipulated because it is allocated in the memory. Okay. So summing up class and objects in Java, so I can say these are the preliminary concepts. Okay, in Java, and a good concept of classes is essential for future development. So classes come in handy when we need to develop data types of our own. So it is important that we have a deep understanding of the topic before moving on. So let us discuss again the difference. So already I have told object has the physical existence, class has the logical existence. Class is a user-defined data type. Objects are the variable of type class. Class generates object, whereas object gives life to a class. Whenever we are creating the object, that means we are allocating memory. That means it has the life. Okay. So classes do not occupy memory locations, but objects occupy memory locations. Classes cannot be manipulated due to the available in the memory location, but objects can be manipulated because of the allocation of the memory locations. So any doubt? Okay. So now let us discuss about the variables in Java. Okay. So already we know the meaning of a variable. Whenever I am writing int a equal to 5, a is the variable. So I can say that a variable is a name of a memory location. Okay. So a variable is a container which holds the value while the Java program is executed. A variable is assigned with a data type. Int a, float b. It is assigned with a data type. So variable is a name of memory location. There are three types of variables in Java. First one, local variables. Second one, that is instance variables. And third one, that is class or static variables. So local variables means what? A variable defined within a block or method is called local variable. The scope of these variables exists only within the block in which the variable is declared. We can access these variables only within that block. Initialization of the local variable is mandatory. So let us, and another second one, that is instance variable. Instance variables are declared in a class, but outside a method. They are also called data members or field variables. And class or static variables, that we'll discuss in the lecture 3. Let us understand the local variable, instance variable with the help of this example. Okay. So let us try to understand. I have defined a class called circle. Then I have declared a variable rad that is present outside the definition of all methods. Yes. That is the data member of the class. Yes. Then this rad is called as instance variable. Are you realizing? Let us look at again. Instance variables are declared in a class. So if I will look at the code, this variable is declared inside the class. Yes, it is declared inside the circle class. Then, but outside the method. So whether this is present inside any method like get data calculate? No. It is present outside of all the methods, that is get data and calculate. And then I can say they are called as the data members or field variables. So I can say that this variable rad, these are called instance variable and also called as data members of the class. Any doubt in the instance variable? Raise your hand. So data members of the class are called as the instance variable. Let us go for the previous class code. So if I will go through this code, I can say what? The class name is book. This name, ISBN, author and price, they are called as the instance variable. Okay. So now let us proceed further. Then there is a method called get data. So this method is used to what? This method is used to initialize the data members of the class or initialize the instance variable of the class. Then inside the method calculate, I have declared a variable pi. I have declared a variable area. So these are the variables that is defined inside a method. That's why this variable are called as local variable. So the variables which are declared inside a method, they are called local variable. So for the class circle, I can say that pi and area, these are the local variables. Any doubt? So we have discussed the two types of variables till now. One is local variable, one is instance variable. Yes, Aditya.
So can you again explain the local variable?
Yes. So whenever I am saying that local variable, a variable defined within a block or method is called local variable. So if I will go through the code, calculate is the method. Inside the method calculate, I have declared a variable pi. I have declared a variable area. So these variables are called as local variable. Remember, in the for loop, we have written like the statement like this: for int I equal to 1, that int is present inside the for block. Therefore, I can say that this int I, where I is called as the local variable. Aditya, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So any other doubt? All right. So we have declared. We have just discussed the three types of variables, but the last type of variables we'll discuss in the next lecture. Okay. So now just look at this code. I will explain this again, and you are going to explain me after this. There is a class called circle. I have declared the instance variable rad. There is a method get data. This get data method is used to initialize the rad by taking the data from the keyboard. There is a method called calculate. There is a local variable pi initialized with 3.141. This calculate method is used to calculate the area of a circle. Then what happened? Then I have defined another class, that is alpha. Inside the alpha, I have created the object reference. I have allocated memory. Then I have called c1.getData. By calling this getData, I am providing the radius for that c1. Then c1.calculate, I am going to calculate the area for the c1. Okay, area of the circle. So any doubt? So in this example, I can say rad is the instance variable, pi is the local variable, c1 is the object reference. Okay, rad is also called as data members, and two member function getData and calculate. We know that with the help of object reference and the dot operator, the members can be accessed. So c1.getData, c1.calculate. Any doubt? Ask now. Otherwise, I will ask someone to explain the code. Yes, Isandip.
Sir, can you please explain the keywords used when we are defining an object like circle c1 equals to new circle? What is the meaning of
Yes.
each? Like first circle, then new, and then another.
First circle is the class name. I should know that this object reference belongs to which class. So this is the object reference that belongs to class circle. Then till now, only memory is allocated for C1. The object has not yet created. This is called object reference. This is pointing to some memory location. This is referencing to some memory locations. But whenever I'm allocating memory through the new operator, what happened? Memory is allocated for data members, that is RAD. And to that memory that is storing the data members, C1 is referencing. Just this diagram. What happened? I have created the object reference C1. So this is the memory locations where I'm allocating the memory for the data members of the class. Only one data member, that is RAD. So C1 is now referencing to this memory location. So how can I access RAD? So this method I can access by the member function and the dot operator, c1.getData, c1.display, like that. Are you realizing? Just after 2-3 slides, it will be more clear. Any doubt?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay. So now who can explain this code? Raise your hand with the local variable, with the instance variable, and with the object reference. Who can explain how the control flow? Who can explain? Raise your hand. Okay, Prince Roy.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. Explain this one.
Sir, the first program starts from the main method.
Okay.
Here object of class circle is created.
So C1 is called as?
Object reference.
Very good.
And
Then,
it is stored in call stack memory.
yes, that
and-
we'll discuss after this slides.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Then in line 23, C1 dot get data. After this, the flow of control will go to the void get data.
Yes.
Your
It will go to the get data definition.
Your object of scanner class will be created and it will accept radius of double type.
Okay.
Then control will now come to the main method. Here C1 dot calculate. The control flow again will go to the calculate function.
Okay.
Here double pi is your local variable.
Okay.
Here then double area is also local variable. Then area of circle will be here created and it will print the area of circle. After printing the area of circle, the control will come to the again main method and it will end.
Okay. All right. So mute your audio. So all of you understand now. So now let us discuss about the memory allocation for objects in Java. So we have discussed that till now two types of variable, third type of variable, that is class variable, discussed later. Two types of variable. First one is the instance variable, second one is the local variable. And let us discuss about the memory allocation. Okay, so memory allocation is a process by which computer programs and services are assigned with physical or virtual memory space. What is the physical and virtual memory that you are going to study in the operating system part, okay, in the higher semester? So just let us focus on the memory allocation. So so the Java memory allocation for variables is divided into three sections. One is heap area, second one is stack area, third one is class area. So the memory space for an object is always allocated heap area, just like this diagram. Memory space for the object. Object refers to what? The data members of the class. So for that I have just allocated memory. So this is called as heap area. Okay, this memory is called as heap area. And heap space in Java is used for dynamic memory allocation for Java objects using the new operator. So that means basically in short I can say, if I'm going to allocate memory using the new operator, then the memory is going to be allocated in the heap area. Then stack area. So stack is a portion of the memory where local primitive variables or local object reference variables are stored. Such local variables live on the stack until the block or method in which they are declared is being executed. That means the diagram that I have shown, this memory location refers to stack area. So what is stored in the stack area? So I can say that the stack area consists of the local variables. The stack area consists of the object reference. Okay, so up to this, any doubt? So now let us go for this code. Now let me explain this one. If you have doubt, then ask me. Otherwise, I will ask randomly to anyone to explain this one. I have defined the class student. Now you must be able to understand the term. This is the class tag name, that is also called as. So I am defining the class student. Class name is also called as class tag name. Then these are the instance variables. So 4 instance variables, and also called as data members of the class. Then inside the main method, I have created 2 object reference S1 and S2. So till now, any memory is allocated for name, registration number, branch, GPA? The answer is no. So after executing this, whether many memory is allocated for name, registration number, branch, GPA? The answer is no. Then where the memory is allocated for S1 and S2? The memory for S1 and S2 is allocated in the stack area. Then I have allocated memory for the object. S1 is equal to new student. What happened? Memory for the data members is allocated in the heap area, and that block of memory is referenced by the object reference S1. S2 equal to new student. So memory is allocated for the data members of the class, and that memory is allocated in the heap area, and S2 is referencing to that memory location. Okay, so till now I cannot say what is the name, registration number, branch, CGPA for the object reference S1. I cannot say what is the name, registration number, branch, CGPA for the object reference S2. JVM has provided the default value for all these data members. Okay, now I have to initialize the data members. So S1.name equal to Rahul. Just I have told, with the help of object reference name and dot operator, I can access the members. Members refers to what? Data members as well as member functions. Just look at here. Here I am not accessing the member functions. Rather, I am accessing the data members of the class. So S1 dot name is equal to Rahul. S1 dot registration number is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. S1 dot branch is equal to CSE. S1 dot CGPA equal to 9.8. So these are the values that is present inside the heap area. And S1 is the memory, S1 is the object reference whose memory is allocated in the stack area. How can I access? Object reference dot data members. So whether S1 and S2, they are referencing to the same memory location? Obviously the answer is no. Why no? Because different statement has been written using new operator to allocate the separate memory. They are not referencing to the same memory location. So can I say that S1 dot name will be equal to S2 dot name? So obviously the answer will be no, because they are in the separate memory location. So S1 is referencing with some set of values, S2 is referencing with some set of values. They are not same. Any doubt? Ask now. Aditi, yes.
So if you want same memory location,
So if I want same memory location, so what I will do, after writing this statement, that is we are discussing this one, no? After writing this statement S1 is equal to new student, I will write S2 equal to S1. Although two memory is allocated in the stack, but a single memory is allocated in the heap area, both S1 and S2 are referencing to the same memory location. So after writing this for statement, if I want to display S2 dot name, in that case my output will be Rahul. Are you realizing?
yes.
I will not use the new operator. I will write here S2 equal to S1. So S1 is referencing to some memory location. To that same memory location, S2 is also now referencing. Any modification by the S1 is reflected by the S2. Any modification by the S2 is going to be reflected by the S1. Okay.
Yes.
Any other doubt? This example is really very important. Any doubt you can ask. Any doubt? Payaswini, any doubt? Payaswini? Kosali, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. So, Sanskar, any doubt?
Sir.
Any doubt? Okay. Spradha Kumari, any doubt?
I have added all of you in the model.
Okay.
Please log in and check that the subject is coming.
Okay. So, Soumya Ranjan, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So now just raise your hand who can explain the code. Sanjana, any doubt? Sanjana?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Rohan, explain the code.
Sir, can you show the code?
Yes.
Sir, here, sir, first of all, we are creating the instance variable, string name, int registration number, string branch, and double CGPA. Then we are creating reference S1 and S2 in stack area. Then we are dynamically allocating that reference
Memory for the object.
Yes, sir. We are dynamically allocating memory in the heap area. Then
Very good.
we are in the next part, we are calling out the data members and then initializing the memory with the data values. Like we are calling out S1.name and we are initializing with it Rahul, and S1.registration number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Likewise, we have allocated the memory with the values, and similarly in the S2 we are allocating the value, and that is a different memory location. So this way we are.
Okay, okay. So the concept is going to be more clear by this diagram. So all of you try to understand this diagram. So I am saying I am discussing about two area, memory locations. First one is stack area, second one is heap area. Just look at here, whenever I am saying about the object reference S1 and S2, the memory is allocated in the stack area. Okay. So whenever I'm writing S1 is equal to new student, what happened? In the heap area, a memory block is allocated for the data members, and S1 is referencing to that memory location. Okay. And whenever I'm writing this S1 dot name equal to Rahul, so what happened? The data members which is referenced by S1 object reference is going to be initialized by Rahul. Okay. Similarly, if I write S2 dot registration number is equal to 652354, so S2 is referencing to some memory locations in the heap area, and its data member registration number is initialized with 652354. Any doubt? Now raise your hand, or I will ask someone to explain the diagram. Any doubt? Isandip? Okay. So Aditi Sharma? Aditi Sharma, are you present? Okay. Chiranjeev Rao?
Yes, sir.
So Chiranjeev, can you explain this one diagram, this diagram?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, first of all, the S1 and S2 are created in the stack area.
Okay, what
And
are
in
S1
the-
and S2?
Sir?
What are S1 and S2?
Sir, these are objects, sir.
These are object reference.
Object reference, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Then
Sir, in the heap area, in the name, registration number, branch, and CGPA, different locations are made in different memory. Two different memories are made. For one memory is for S1 and other is for S2. In S1,
Yes.
Rahul 1 2 3 4 5 6 CSC, these all are stored, and in same time S2, Sachin, CSA, and all those are stored. Those are stored in different memory location in the heap area.
okay. So now let us discuss the points that objects and instance variables continue to live on heap until they are referenced by the reference variables. As long as S1 is referencing to the object, then the life of the object will exist. Once S1 will not point to this, then I cannot access this Rahul and this registration number, this branch and CGP. I cannot access. So once an object is no longer referenced by any reference variable, it is eventually removed from heap by the garbage collector. Okay. So as long as we do not initialize the object with values, already I have told this point, JVM always provides its default values to initialize the instance variables in the heap area. And size of the object is equal to the total size of instance variables of the corresponding class. So what is the size of this object? That is the total memory capacity of data members of the class student. Okay. So up to this, any doubt you can ask. So are you all listening or are you all sleeping? I can't understand today. Yes, sir. Spradha, tell.
Sir, please repeat about JVM point, like it keeps
So
default value.
okay. So up to this, after this statement, S2 is equal to new student. So what memory is allocated for the object, and S1 is referencing to that object. But whenever memory is allocated, the memory is allocated for the data members, that is name, registration number, branch, CGPA. So after this statement, if I will write system.out.println S1.name, what it will display? It is going to display null. So JVM is going to provide the default values once the memory is allocated for the data members for the object in the heap area. What is the default value for the string? I can say that the default value for the string is null. What is the default value for integer? So it will be initialized with 0. What is the default value for the double? It will be initialized with 0.0 like that. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So if I am not going to provide any initial values, then it should be initialized with the default values. So now let us discuss another concept, that is passing arguments into a member function of a class. In this case also we are going to discuss 2 points. So but before this, let me say that we have discussed the concept of method. Method can take the parameters. So based on the parameters, there is a very popular question. Who can say what is the formal parameter? What is the actual parameter? Who can say? Raise your hand. What is formal parameter? What is actual parameter? Yes, Sanskar?
Yes, sir. So formal parameter is the parameter which is defined in method definition.
Okay.
The actual parameter is when all the method he gives the arguments, that is called the.
Yes. So the parameters that is used in the method definition, they are called as formal parameters, and the parameters that is used in the function call or method call, that is called as actual parameter. Okay. So now we know that we can pass parameters to a method, and a class consists of data members and method. Can we pass parameters to the data member method? Obviously the answer is yes. And we are going to discuss 2 types of parameters. First one is the primitive data type arguments, and second one is object reference as the argument, that we are going to discuss. So before going into this theoretical concept, let us go for the code and let us try to understand. Okay, let's say all of you listen carefully. Let me explain this one, and after this I will ask someone randomly to explain this. I have defined a class called lamp. So the class name is lamp. I have declared one data member switch1 of type boolean. So this switch1 is called instance variables. I have defined a member method input which takes a parameter p of primitive type, that is boolean type. So what is the work of input? This input is used to initialize the data member switch1 to its parameter value. So switch1 is equal to p. Then there is a method called as display. This is the member function, and this display is going to display the value of the data member switch1. How to display? If switch1 equal to true, then it will display that light is on, because switch1 equal to true means switch is on, and else that means switch1 is off, then I can say that light is off. Okay. Then I have defined the class that is alpha lamp. This class consists of the main method. So I can say that the file name must be alphalamp.java. Look at here, the file name is alphalamp.java. I have created one object reference. This object reference memory is allocated in the stack area. I have allocated memory for the object. This memory is allocated in the heap area. This memory is for the data members of the class lamp. Then L1.input false. So input is a method that takes one parameter, that is false. This false is called as actual parameter, because the parameter that is used in the function call or method call is called as actual parameter. Whenever the method is called, the control transfer to the definition of input method. Then what I have done, I have initialized the value of switch1 equal to false. Why false? Because I have passed the parameter as false. Then the control come back to the point where the method has been called. Then the next statement is L1.display. It is going to display the data members of the class. So switch1 equal to true. The condition is false because I have initialized with false. So it will display that light is off. Again, after this, control come back to this point. Again, I have created another object reference. I have allocated memory. Then L2.input true. So what will happen? It will display It will call the method and pass the parameter true. So control transfer to the method input, and the parameter is true. So switch 1 will be initialized to true. Then L2.display, control will go to the display method. It will compare the value of switch 1. It is equal to true. Condition is correct. Condition is true. Therefore, it will display light is on. So it will display two statements of output. First statement is light is off. Second statement is light is on. So any doubt, ask now. Any doubt? Ayush Verma?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. Virendra?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay. So just in this case, what can I say? I can say that input is a member method. It takes one parameter of primitive type. So Boolean data type is a primitive data type. So any doubt in this example, raise your hand. If not, those who can explain the code, raise your hand. Okay, Pausali, explain the code.
Yes, sir. So we have declared a class lamp within in which we have declared a instance variable boolean type switch 1, and then we have declared a member function input, and we have passed a primitive data type boolean p, and within it we have initialized switch 1 as equal to p. Then we have declared another member function display, which says if switch 1 is equal to true, then it will print light is on, else it will print light is off. Then we go to the main method. Here we have created an object L1 in which
reference L1.
Object reference L1, in which if the input value is we have created L1 input and we have passed false, so it will go to the display value and check if and compare switch 1, which is false. It will print the else statement, light is off, and then we have created another object reference L2. So it will compare L2.input true with if statement, and it is true, so it will print light is on.
Okay, okay, very good. So now let us go for the second type, that is we are passing the reference data type as the argument, object reference as the argument. Okay, so let us discuss this one. Passing primitive data type as argument, you can easily understand. The member method is input. We are passing one primitive data type of Boolean type. So primitive arguments such as an int or a double are passed into methods by value. This means that any changes to the values of the parameters exist only within the scope of the method. When the method returns, the parameters are going and any changes to them are lost. Here is the example. Okay, so can anyone say, who can say, raise your hand, can anyone say where the memory for P is going to be allocated? Where the memory for P is going to be allocated? Yes, Sanskar?
So the memory of
Diti?
So it is a local variable.
Yes, it is a local variable. So where the memory is going to be allocated?
So inside the memory, inside the Stack.
Yes, in the stack area, the memory is going to be allocated. Okay. So now let us go for this passing reference data type arguments, and let me discuss this with the help of the code first. Okay, and any doubt you can ask. So this is the program in which we are going to create the two complex numbers, and we are going to perform the addition of two complex numbers. Okay, so let us discuss this code. Any doubt at any instant you can just stop me. I have defined a class complex number. Two data members, one is real and imaginary. They are also called as instance variables. Then I have defined a method input. The parameters are primitive type. That is case 1 that we have discussed previously. So these parameters are used to initialize the data members or instance variable of the class. So real is initialized with P, imaginary is initialized with Q. Then there is a method called calculate. Mark here. I am passing the parameters as the object references C11, C22. They are the object reference for the class complex number. What is the task? I want to add two complex numbers. So you know that for the addition of two complex number, real number is going to be added individually, imaginary number is going to be added individually. So real is equal to C11 dot real plus C22 dot real. Imaginary equal to C11 dot imaginary, C22 dot imaginary. Then there is a display method. This method is used for displaying the complex number, and in general, you know what the complex number is, a plus bi, like that. So real, then real plus imaginary I. So what I can write? 3 plus 4i, let's say. Real plus imaginary I. Okay. Then I have defined the class which consists of main method. So definitely I can say that the file name must be comp.java. So inside this, I have created one reference C1 and allocated memory in the heap area using the new operator. Similarly for the C2 also. Then I have called C1.input. So control transfer to the input method. So for C1 in the heap area, memory is allocated for real and imaginary. So for real, it will be initialized with 10. Imaginary is going to be initialized with 20. Why? Because I have passed the primitive parameters. Then I have again called input method. I have passed the primitive parameters 30 and 40. So what I can say? I can say that for the C2 that is referencing to the heap memory, in the heap memory, the data real and imaginary is going to be initialized with 30 and 40. Then I have called then I have created the object reference C3, allocated memory in the heap area. Then I have called the calculate method. So for the calculate method, I have passed two object references as the parameter, C1 and C2. It is going to perform the addition. Then C1.display. This is going to display the real and imaginary of the heap memory location, that is C1 referencing, that is 10 plus 20i. Then C2.display. It is going to display 30 plus 40i. Then finally it is going to display the sum, that is C3.display. It is going to display 40 plus 60i. So let me run the code. Just look at here. So 10 plus 20i, that is C1, first complex number, 30 plus 40i, that is the second complex number, and the sum of C1 and C2 is 40 plus 60i. So any doubt where in this case what happened? We have passed a parameter, that is the object reference as the parameter in the member method. Any doubt? Yes, Aditya, tell.
So can you show the code once?
Yes.
So here in the calculate method in bracket we have written complex number C11. What is that?
So C11 is the object reference. That means what is happening. So in this case, so C11, the memory, it is pointing to some memory location. In that memory location, it stores real and imaginary value. C22 is pointing to another memory locations, that is which stores some real and imaginary value. How can I access the real and imaginary value of C11? C11 dot real, C11 dot imaginary. How can I access the C22 real and imaginary part that is present in the heap area? How can I access C22 dot real, C2 dot imaginary? Then what are these real and imaginary? This belong to which object reference? This is the object reference belong to the object reference C3 because C3 has called this. Okay.
Yes, sir. And so, what is it P and Q?
What is?
So, in the real equals to P.
Yes.
No, sir, but I wasn't able to see that.
Okay. So, any doubt? Isandip, tell.
Sir, here the object is passing by the value, right?
No.
So
C11 is what? C11 is what?
The reference of C1.
C11 is the object reference. So this is not, I am not passing the value. I am passing the object reference, but which is pointing to some memory locations in the heap area.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So these are not the value, these are the object reference, which are referencing to some memory locations in the heap area. Any other doubt? So remember one thing, remember, very important. Whenever a method is called by the object reference, its data member can be accessed directly without using the object reference. Just look at here, C1.input. This input method has been called by the object reference C1. So C1 has the data members real and imaginary. I can use real and imaginary directly without using dot operator. But look at here in the calculate method. Who has called? C3 has called. So if I want to access the value of real and imaginary for C1, then what I can write? I can write here that C11.real, C22.real, but for the C3, I will not write C3.real, I will write only real. Because I can access the data members directly for an object reference who has called the method. This is a very important key point all of you try to realize. For example, C1.display. So for the data members of C1, I can access it directly without using the dot operator and C1. So I can access real and imaginary part of the C1 directly. Okay, any doubt? Any doubt? Okay, so just look at here. So I have defined this complex number. Now, very important, let us discuss this diagram. I have created one object reference C1 for the same code. In the heap, memory is allocated for the object. In the input method, C1.input, I have passed 10 and 20 as the parameter. So real is initialized with 10, imaginary is initialized with 20. Similarly, I have allocated memory in the stack area for the object reference C2. Memory for the object is allocated in the heap area. So corresponding respective real is 30, respective imaginary is 40. But whenever I am calling C3.calculate, passing the parameter as C1 and C2, real is equal to C1.real plus C2.real, like this. Okay, so just mark here C11, C12. These are the memory allocated in the stack area, but they are referencing to the same memory location pointed by C1 and pointed by C2 respectively. Are you realizing or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so any doubt now? Aditi, tell.
So in how will access the real part after adding?
So if I want to access the real part, for which class? For which object reference?
So that means the final result when we'll display it,
final result is going to be referenced by the object C3. Yes.
yes,
Then if
Yes.
I will call C3.display, I am able to display the real and imaginary part.
yes, sir.
If I want to access only real part, I can write C3.real, no issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any other doubt? All right. So let us stop now. So we will discuss in the next class.